Intel shares jumping on earnings, and joining us now is Matt Bryson, Wedbush Securities equity research analyst. Matt, great to see you. Looking at the reaction here, at least initially in the after hours, investors clearly like what they see. We're up nearly 7%. Let me get your take on the print, Matt. What did you think?
Yeah, they gave us a better revenue result than expected. They gave us a better guide. A lot of it comes down to that PC business getting better in Q3, and I would anticipate that that's what's also driving the upside in Q4.
I mean, this would be quite a rebound for the company, right? I was just looking at the numbers. This would be the first revenue gain, the fourth quarter gain that they're forecasting, going back to the second quarter of 2020. So, is that underlying demand for PCs that is increasing? Is it something that Intel specifically is doing right? I mean, how do we sort of suss that out?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is underlying demand for PCs. So post-COVID, everyone bought, or during COVID, everyone bought a new PC. We saw a pause post-COVID as inventories got worked down throughout the supply chain. Now I think that the industry is finally seeing a little bit of a bump there. Around Intel, in terms of Intel execution, I think they've executed better on that PC side of things. So I think things are going well there. Having said that, really for Intel to become the Intel of old, they have to get their manufacturing right. That's something that's going to play out in 2024, 2025. So still not a whole lot of insight into whether that's something that works for them or whether they continue to struggle with execution on that front.
And Matt, as we talk about the PC market, you can see competition really heating up. We had Qualcomm CEO Cristiano Amon on the show this week, and he has his new ARM-based PC chip. He's making very bold claims, Matt, about he can beat Apple, he can beat Intel. Then Apple also has an event next week, a Mac event. Who knows? They may come out and tout their own new faster chips. What does all this competition mean for Intel? If you're committing capital to Intel, are you worried about that, Matt? Are you worried about that rivalry?
I think you've got to be worried. ARM has struggled historically to get traction. So the promise had been better power usage, lower cost. That really didn't catch on with consumers. Now Qualcomm's out there talking about a chip that has better performance, uses less power. Supposedly we've got NVIDIA and AMD on the horizon with similar efforts. So it's something you've got to be concerned about. Having said that, if Intel can become the leader in manufacturing again, a lot of that doesn't matter. So whether it's an Intel chip, whether it's an NVIDIA chip fabbed on Intel or a Qualcomm chip fabbed on Intel, if you're the manufacturing leader, as TSM has illustrated, there are paths to grow revenue and to grow revenue profitably. So at the end of the day, I think for Intel, it still comes down to manufacturing. And if you're betting on Intel beyond just a quarter or two, you're betting on the fact that they can get their manufacturing process right.
And what's your confidence level that they can?
So that's a good question. Really, they're still on the same 7-nanometer node that they've been working on for a long time, and which caused them so much trouble. It's their next set of products. So Meteor Lake on the PC side, that's getting released in December. It's things like Emerald Rapids and Sierra Forest that are coming out late this year, early next year, that are going to tell you whether or not they're executing well. And so I think it's very much a to be determined item. I mean, they are saying all the right things in terms of talking about hitting all their milestones in getting these products out. But from my perspective, until you have these products in the hands of customers and things are working well, it's a bit of a black hole, if you will, in terms of information.
Hey, Matt, let me just drill down into this segment with you, the data center and AI business segment. Investors focus on that, higher margin chips. What do you think the trajectory of that segment looks like, Matt, over the next few quarters?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of a struggle until mid-year of next year. I think you've got Intel and everyone else who are struggling to catch NVIDIA on the AI side. I think if there's a second player there, it's more likely AMD. You've got customers who are spending more on AI and so aren't buying as many standard servers. And then you've got AMD, who I think is making inroads at the CSPs, the cloud service providers, which you don't necessarily see this quarter or last quarter, in part because those guys are mostly spending on AI. But I think as we move forward through 2024, you're going to see AMD take more share there. And so again, for Intel, is if you get your manufacturing right, your server products are going to hit on time and you're going to get more competitive. But again, that's a to be determined item. The one thing that is a tiny bit encouraging is that NEX segment. So switching, if you will, that segment has grown for the first time in a couple quarters. Maybe that signals the bottom there.
All right, Matt, Bryson, great to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.